I want to preface this video by saying I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I really enjoy Zack Snyder's take on Batman. Now, if you're clicking on this video and you're on the opposite opinion of mine, you're not a fan of Ben Affleck as Batman or Zack Snyder's take, that's totally okay. Having opinions is great, and you know what? There's no problem not liking something. But the whole point of this video isn't to prove anything, to restore your opinion in Batman and say it's the best thing ever and completely turn the tide. No, this video is more or less a love letter to what I love about this Batman. I truly love the fraction of the arc, the entire one that we were supposed to get with Zack Snyder planned for this Batman. And hopefully one day we'll see that come full circle. But for right now, we're working with what we saw in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's what I'm going to be going off of in this video. I'm going to be talking about other things throughout the rest of the chapters. This is just a love letter. And once again, if you disagree, that's totally fine. Now, this is going to be the first episode in a series that I plan to do for a lot of movies. Most likely going to be DC related for the first few, but don't worry, I will get to Marvel eventually. I just have a lot of DC stuff I want to talk about, and so what I'm going to be doing is, writing different chapters, talking about character arcs and what I loved about it, what it means to the overall story, and stuff like that. That's pretty much going to be what the series is about, and this is episode 1. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this video's sponsor, me. Please, if you enjoy this video, go check out the rest of the channel and see what else I have to offer. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't, hey, that's okay. Love you for being here, even if it was for a little while. Zack Snyder's Batman. A broken psyche and a lost legend. Bruce Wayne, 20 years in Gotham. Alfred sums up the entirety of Bruce's arc in Batman v Superman with one line perfectly delivered by Jeremy Irons.
That's how it starts. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
After a dead Robin, a burnt down Wayne Manor, and whatever he did to Deathstroke in the past, most likely including his son or daughter, Bruce Wayne is broken. No longer does he have the faith and motivation to never let what happened to him in that alley so many years ago ever happen again. No, his motivation is shifted. It's twisted. Brutality and fear. The two elements motivate Bruce, especially during the Black Zero event, in which an alien and a farm boy from Kansas destroy a city in a day. This is no basic criminal or slight supervillain this Batman has ever faced. This is the exact thing Bruce is afraid of, the unknown. Our Bruce is clouded, literally running to save innocents on this day and seeing the destruction firsthand. When the dust settles, he doesn't go full detective mode and immediately discover Clark's identity to find out he's actually a good guy who just made a mistake with his powers. And this Bruce in particular would know a lot about power struggle and the consequences of one's actions. Maybe if this Bruce wasn't so broken, he could have mentored Clark and helped him during his arc in BVS. Instead, we have a broken man blinded by anger and fear that a single % chance of Clark being evil causes him to be fully motivated and humiliating and murdering the Superman. But wait. Batman doesn't kill, right? Or does he? Now, this is true. A lot of stories, Bruce Wayne, the Dark Knight, does not kill. There's actually a lot of YouTube videos about this and a lot of different interpretations of Batman, but this is a different story. A lot of lessons I have learned through Zack Snyder as a filmmaker and his history is creative freedom and letting your vision shine. We have seen a multitude of different versions of not only DC but Marvel characters over the years, and there's just many different versions out there through comics, TVs, and movies. The interpretation of a character comes down to the writing and directing of the project. What is the reasoning behind the decisions made? I believe Zack made a unique take on Batman, and throwing us more than halfway into his career and making him broken to a point of no return, but somehow making his way back to faith is honestly fantastic. Sorry, I couldn't help myself with that line. We will get to that scene much later, and while talking about a different movie. What I'm trying to say is this. We have one version of Batman here, and one version here, and another one there. Each in their own unique and different ways. They're all the Batman. So yes, Batman doesn't kill, but sometimes he does. Now, back to Batman v Superman. After doing some detective work finally, and putting all of the pieces together, Batman lets all of his inner demons out, not listening to Clark, progressively pushing him to fight. This incredible fight scene of not only a pretty cool cinematic spectacle, it lets us visually see this Batman at his lowest point. The brutality in his punches, the snarkiness in his remarks. This Bruce is so blinded, he doesn't even see Clark as a human, just a vessel for his anger to be let out on. He almost seems justified in this because of the awfully timed moment from Future Barry telling him he was right about him. Just not in this context, but still, the fight shows off all of Batman's skills and unique gadgets, and even with Clark getting a few great hits in, Bruce ultimately wins. His character arc is done, he has defeated God. Because of his conviction, because of his fear. He talks about his parents in his lesson that he somehow twisted. When Bruce says,
"My parents taught me a different lesson. Dying in the gutter for no reason at all."
He doesn't truly mean it. But going back to Alfred's line from earlier, powerlessness turns good men cruel. And so Bruce revokes his honorable motivation to become Batman and instead makes it horrifying. He stands over Clark knowing he won, and his fear can be put to rest. Until God talks back. Clark, in his dying breath, does the one thing that he believes will work. He calls out to Bruce and his humanity. As much as the audience knows up to this point that Bruce has lost it and all hope seems to be lost, he says a name of someone very close to the both of them. Now, before I go into why I like the Martha scene, I want to note that I believe narratively, the Martha scene does work. But I really do understand why some don't like it and just chop it up to their moms having the same name. I totally understand that complaint, but let's get back to the reason why I like it. So Clark says,
"You're letting him kill Martha."
This almost stops time for Bruce, and we see him start to scatterbrain and trying to rationalize why this enemy is trying to play him or trick him. He mutters and screams trying to figure out this trick, but the truth is, it isn't one. Martha is Clark's mom, this god, this huge grand beacon, this scary threat, and his dying breath calls for his mom. Just like Bruce all those years ago, he lost his Martha. He didn't get the chance to save her. Martha and Thomas were ripped from Bruce without any remorse, and it never left his mind. Only now does he remember the true lesson, the true reason he became Batman, and finally, he buries the beautiful lie. Bruce realizes that this isn't an enemy, it's a version of himself that hasn't lost Martha, and he won't let another Martha die. Suddenly, this Bruce isn't motivated by fear or the unknown, but for what is certain. This Superman is just that, a man, a human, just as much as Bruce, or maybe even a little more. This is his chance to redeem himself, not only just to himself, Clark, or the world, but to Alfred, the man who has been there for him his entire life, who watched him rise and fall. He needs to redeem himself in the eyes of his family. That doesn't completely get rid of his exceeded violence and brutality, that comes a bit later. Still, this is a very big step in his character arc. We have a fantastic warehouse scene and a pretty sweet Doomsday battle later. Even with this really nice change of pace and awesome step in his arc, the one thing the broken Bruce wanted all night long finally happens. God dies. The vicious Batman wanted Superman dead and his fears laid to rest until he realized that is the wrong thing. Superman is a symbol for hope, a better man and hero than he is now. The world needs Superman, and that is why he gains respect and fights by his side. The thing is, Superman will always make the sacrifice for Earth, even if they don't love him yet. Bruce watches as Superman uses the weapon meant for him to destroy the real enemy, a culmination of fear and the uncertain, the Doomsday. The way I see Doomsday is the manifestation of what both Lex and Bruce saw Superman as, just this monster. Either way, Clark sacrifices himself, and now literally in Bruce's mind, hope is lost anyway. Instead of losing himself once more and allowing his broken mind to take over, Bruce mourns for Clark and his family. He does what he thinks is best by paying for the funeral, but can't make the step to talk to Martha, but only watches from afar, like he says to Diana.
I failed him in life. I won't fail him in death.
which completes his arc for the movie and perfectly sets up his role in the Snyder Cut. I really enjoy what they did with Bruce Wayne in Batman v Superman. Yes, it's a very long movie with 3 hours, spread across it, but I think it did a really good job at introducing us to this Batman, his Alfred, his legacy, and what's gotten him to this point of being so broken with the visuals of the dead Robin suit and Alfred's lines here or there talking about his viciousness, and watching as he has to learn to accept that he was wrong, that Superman is a good thing, that he is an actual symbol for hope, and that Bruce has lost his way. And with Diana at the end, he's finally on his step to redemption. Now, as you have all probably noticed up to this point, I'm mainly focusing on the titular character of Batman, so other videos will be about the rest of the League, but for Bruce and Zack Snyder's Justice League, his main purpose is bringing a team together, to bring as much hope and safety to the world as it can to fight against an enemy coming from far away. Diana tells Bruce about the Age of Heroes and what they meant as guardians to Earth. Bruce and Diana are on a mission to bring the Age of Heroes back. They go around and find some very interesting characters that eventually join the cause. This leads to a very interesting conversation about the Mother Box and all of its capabilities. Because they're really change machines in the way their science and everything connects with sorcery and living beings and all of that connection, it can change things, not only things and restoring them, but also living beings, organisms. It has the possibility of bringing Superman back. The League discussed this, and they set out to do so, planning a pretty cool and fun plan to watch while also keeping the stakes high. If they do it, it alerts Steppenwolf, and they could lose not only the battle, but also that third Mother Box. Barry has to push his powers to the limit, and what if it doesn't work? These things keep the stakes high and the audience in anticipation. Bruce being so adamant about bringing Clark back to the living, ignoring all of the signs against it, reflects his ignorance against Clark in Batman v Superman, reminding us that he has learned from it. Superman's revival is great, and the loss of humanity and having to refine it again is great. And once again, I want to reiterate, other Justice League members will get their own videos, but Batman never lets down his optimism towards this return. This all finally culminates in the scene that motivated me to make this video in the first place. To sum up Ben Affleck's Batman and his arc in Zack Snyder's Justice League is restoring faith. Restoring the faith in heroes and good people. This scene in particular starts in the Batcave all the way until the League gets into the Flying Fox to fight Steppenwolf. This scene shows a drastic difference to how we see Batman in Batman v Superman. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, Bruce is more humble and human throughout. It really shines in this scene where he tells the League he works for Alfred, and the conversations about Victor's father and the nightmare Bruce had just shown how much trust and connection the group has to one another. This scene is ultimately pretty awesome in general. I really like how everyone connects with each other and talks and really just feels the weight of the whole thing. And as the League is ready to launch, this part happens.
He'll be here, Alfred, I know it.
What makes you so sure?
Faith, Alfred. Faith.
The faith is officially restored, and his arc for the movie is complete. Now Bruce fights with conviction and connection with the rest of the League to defend Earth and reignites the Age of Heroes. When all of the world is saved by the Justice League, Superman returns, the Unity is destroyed, and the very sad Steppenwolf doesn't redeem himself to Darkseid. The epilogue of the movie starts seeing Bruce once again stand further behind Martha and Lois, much like Batman v Superman, but instead of Diana and him at Clark's funeral, he stands next to Clark. Next to the man he can now call a friend. Congratulating him on his engagement with Lois, this Bruce is restored and is now ready to go down the next chapter, which is expanding the League and making an official Hall of Justice in the burnt down Wayne Manor. A pretty nice visual way of telling us he's moving forward. This is a great ending to his arc for the film, and the premonition at the end where Bruce is once again in the Nightmare timeline, we see the unraveling of this development in a pretty twisted way. This reality is where Superman either succumbs to the anti-life equation or betrays the League League after Lois is murdered in the Batcave. In this timeline, we see an even darker version of the Batman we saw in BVS. This version is still working with a version of the League in some sorts, including Deathstroke, Mira, Cyborg, and Flash. They meet up with Joker to make some sort of truce to figure out a way to fix this timeline. Now, this video isn't about the Nightmare timeline itself, and I can get into the time travel properties and everything else Zack has talked about or planned, but the point is on Batman. So Batman has a dialogue with the Joker about the past, about Robin, his parents, and the final thing Bruce won't do. Bruce won't sacrifice himself for Lois. This is just the next step in Batman's arc. Zack does a great job at completing a character arc for a single film and then sets up the next one for the sequel. In Justice League, we see Bruce and his restoration of faith by the Nightmare sequence. We learn his next arc is about sacrifice and the choice he must make in order for this timeline to no longer exist. It truly would be a shame if we never saw this conclusion to this story arc. I hope one day we are able to. Now, the movie ends with Bruce waking up and talking to Martian Manhunter, kind of reiterating that this is a better Bruce going into the next movies and that Martian Manhunter will join the team. This is more or less the end of the film and the end of Batman's arc. To end this video off, I'd like to say thank you if you have made it this far. Truly, thank you for taking the time to hear about what makes me love this Batman. I truly like and enjoy Ben Affleck and his performance as Bruce and Batman. I wish and hope we see more of him soon. He's going to be in the Flash movie. I'm very excited for that one. Even if we don't get a revival of that Batman v Deathstroke movie or Justice League Part 2 or 3, I'm grateful that this Batman at least got his arc in Justice League along with the others. Final thing, let me know in the comments who your favorite Batman is and why. I'm interested in knowing because, well, I'm not really too sure who my favorite live action Batman is. It's definitely up there though. I've grown to really love Ben Affleck's Batman. Obviously Christian Bale is incredible. Love Michael Keaton and Adam West. I love them all. So I don't necessarily know my favorite up to this point, but all I know is this Batman deserved his own video, so maybe that tells you something about which one's my favorite. I'm not sure. Anyways, you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later.